Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
May I present to you the cat?
I am the dog. Well, I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
Yeah.
And we are here to talk all things emulator today.
Heck yeah.
Let's be real, that's probably going to be the main topic.
That's all I've got.
We got a couple other little things, but hey, we actually had Caleb. I know he doesn't like doing this stuff, but we had him deep dive this emulator stuff is what we did.
Oh yeah.
We assigned it to him, and he took over. He was the champ on this, so he's got some reporting to do.
It took a lot of convincing.
It did
so much.
so much convincing.
It was so hard for these guys to convince me to look into and then talk about a thing that I have been trying to get on my iPhone since about, I don't know, 2014. So
let's get into it. How do you like that opening? Did you like that? Let's go ahead. Ongoing emulation saga. Take it away.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, listener, last week, I talked about Apple opening up their App Store guidelines a little bit, just a tiny bit, to allow retro console emulators to exist on the App Store. And talked about how one that was a ripoff of a classic, but only available via sideloading Game Boy emulator that we used to have on the App Store called GBA for iOS. That app was developed by one Riley Testoot, which is, I don't know origin of his last name there. He is from somewhere in Europe. My investigative journalism knows no bounds. Point is, he developed GBA for iOS. He obviously has a history in the space, and he actually followed that up with another side-loadable emulator for Nintendo consoles called Delta. And literally, like the day after we recorded last week, Delta released on the App Store. Like, he had already submitted it like a week beforehand because it was basically ready to go. Like, he'd been developing this app to run on iOS, and then he was offering it to people who had jailbroken iPhones and anybody who could sideload it via an enterprise certificate. And, you know, it was kind of hacky and kind of an obnoxious way to get it, but he had the code base already done. And so for him, it was literally just a case of, oh, well, let me just check a few boxes on Apple's forms here and then just submit this thing. And yeah, so Delta emulator launched. And Delta is a little bit different than GBA for iOS because, true to the name, GBA for iOS was a Game Boy Advance simulator for iOS, which means, obviously, that you could play regular Game Boy games on it as well. Game Boy and Game Boy Color games worked with the Game Boy Advance. It was backwards compatible. So it was a great emulator, really liked it, was a big fan, but it was a hassle to keep it up to date. And every time I updated my software on iOS, it would uninstall and I'd have to go reinstall it. And it was a pain in the butt. So as soon as this launched, I was like, heck yeah. I ran and grabbed my phone. I installed the thing, and I can confirm that it's super well designed. Like, the app is incredibly solid, very well thought through. You can tell that he has been working on this for like a decade. It's a very, very well put together app. Has wide support for retro Nintendo consoles. So obviously the Game Boy Advance, those are in there. In addition to the NES, the SNES, the DS, and the N64. Awesome. So, like, everything from the DS and N64 and earlier. It emulates all that for Nintendo. I will note, playing N64 games on a phone screen, it's a little weird, a little flaky, but if you've got a TV you can AirPlay to and a third-party controller that you can connect to your phone via Bluetooth, works fantastic. It's super great. So yeah, like very, very, I don't know. I've just been really enjoying it. And now,
question.
Oh yes, question.
Is I know we talked about your oh my gosh, I can't think of the name. Your Apple Home your
Apple
TV
Home Apple TV?
Is it not TV?
The Apple Home.
You used to
Pod?
play
What?
Minecraft on it. You used to play games on it on your TV. You'd hook it up to your TV.
I would hook it up to my TV and it was an Apple device.
It's an Apple device. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
That's
it's
an
like,
Apple TV.
Is it Apple TV? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe
Yeah.
I was thinking of something else. Okay. Anyway, can you put this on your Apple TV? Like, or is it? Because I remember we talked about they're not updating the Apple TV very much anymore. But is this something you?
So the Apple TV doesn't get a lot of love from Apple. They just push out minor incremental updates, but the apps on the Apple TV tend to be just fine. I will note that Riley never developed an Apple TV version of Delta. So to port Delta over to the Apple TV is going to be a whole, like an entirely new development effort.
Gotcha.
I suspect it probably won't be a super heavy lift because basically he just needs to get rid of all of the touchscreen controllers that he's built into the iOS version of the app and then make some way for you to actually load ROMs into the app on the TV, because currently it's set up that you add them from like your iCloud or whatever, just they're just files. You store them in the Files app somewhere, and then you load them into the app that way. That doesn't exist on the Apple TV, so he'd have to figure out some workaround for that. But once he has got that all nailed down, there probably will be a version of the Delta app for Apple TV specifically. As it stands currently, you can AirPlay the games from your phone to your TV through an Apple TV or any other AirPlay-enabled device. So things that support AirPlay 2 at this point, besides the Apple TV and obviously Macs and iPhones and stuff like that, are Roku TV sticks that are on their latest version of firmware. LG TVs, their smart TVs, will do it, and I believe Samsung's newer smart devices will as well. I don't know if Google does, but if it doesn't, then you should be able to cast, like Chromecast, to those without having to necessarily use AirPlay. Like those should both be compatible. So
Gotcha.
You just have to do it that way. I will say that like it's been a ton of fun. I've got some ROMs for Game Boy Advance and N64 that I really want to put some time in. But what was really interesting to me about this is that I have 3 ROMs in Delta right now for the Game Boy Color, but none of them are games that were made for the Game Boy Color when the Game Boy Color was a thing. So they were made for the Game Boy Color, but they weren't made in the 90s. Basically, all of these are games that have been developed over the past 5 years or something like that. Like, for example, Halo Combat Devolved as opposed to Combat Evolved.
Wait, that wasn't a Game Boy game?
It is a Game Boy Color remake of Halo, like the first one. I played about 30 minutes of that. It's actually really good. I was just like, this is like a sick thing. The other one is an Elden Ring Game Boy Color remake. So yeah, like if you are the kind of person who's all like, why on earth do these exist for any reason other than piracy, like emulators? Why they're just for pirates? Why is this allowed? Why is it okay? And the simple fact of the matter is this has gone to court several times because the game developers, or well, not even game developers, platform owners, the people who make the consoles, aren't a big fan of emulators, right? Nintendo, Sony, they don't like these things. But they have taken the developers of the emulators to court a couple of different times and lost over and over again. Courts have found that no, the emulators are not actually violating any of your, your ability to control it. Now, there are a few interesting cases where if a console has encryption on it, and that encryption is broken by use of keys that were obtained illegally or something like that, then the emulator isn't legal. But retro console emulators, none of those consoles were encrypted. None of this is a problem. All of these emulators are completely above board. And if you go to itch.io right now and search for Game Boy ROMs, or Game Boy Color ROMs, or Game Boy Advanced ROMs, or N64 ROMs, or whatever, you're going to find that a ton of people are still making games for these consoles. Like, you can go on there and you can pay money for actual pants games that were developed in the past 4 years for the original Game Boy. One of my personal favorites is actually from homestarrunner.com. So the brothers Chaps are on itch.io under the Videlectrics moniker, which was their fictional game development studio for homestarrunner.com that is now just an actual game development studio. So good job, guys. And they have a Game Boy game called Marzipan's Beef Reverser, which is just it's so wild. They have like a full playthrough with Strong Bad playing through the game on their YouTube channel, and you can go onto itch.io and buy it. I don't know if they actually have a ROM version of it available. I think that it was intended to be bought and played just on a PC, but stuff like that. Like, people have absolutely been developing games for these things. And if you happen to have a bunch of old Game Boy cartridges, it's actually not that difficult to get those things ripped off, like get the games ripped off of the cartridge and onto your computer so that you can make a ROM and play it in an emulator. So you don't have to carry around a Game Boy, so that you can have a backlit screen while you play Pokemon Yellow. Like, freak, guys. Like, there's lots of good reasons to have emulators. Anybody that's got a bunch of old cartridges sitting in a box somewhere, go pull those out, get the ROMs, and play them on your phone. Like, it's a giant nostalgia hit, and frankly, I'm gonna put we haven't even gotten halfway through the year yet, and I'm already gonna make an argument very heavily that game emulation is the cross-platform product of the year, specifically because now basically every major platform you can run emulators on, and they're just games work everywhere. So that's really cool. I will note, this is kind of late breaking news. The Provenance emulator developers have made a statement about Apple's opening up the App Store to emulators, and confirmed that they are taking the Provenance emulator, which is an open source project on GitHub, and they're going to be making an iPhone and an Apple TV app for that. So they have specified Apple TV, which is, I think, why this is particularly interesting. So Provenance is a kind of an emulator framework that supports a wide range of systems. It includes all of the Nintendo systems that Delta also supports, as well as the original PlayStation, Sega Genesis, and a couple of their other consoles, the Atari 2600, and a few of Atari's later consoles like the Jaguar and the Lynx, as well as like TurboGrafx consoles and that kind of thing. So just a lot of available stuff under the Provenance banner, and they're working on the app. So I think that it's probably only a matter of time until we also see things like RetroArch show up in the App Store, which is, again, just, it's honestly kind of a roof under which basically every platform, like every retro console emulator that exists, you can get multiple cores under RetroArch, and it allows you to download emulator cores the same way that most other emulators allow you to download or add ROMs. So instead of just having your ROMs with all your games for a single emulator, Arch is like, hey, here's a whole bunch of different emulators you can use for all these different games, and you can try and launch them in as many different cores as you want and find the one that emulates your game the best and stuff like that. It's an entirely open source development project. RetroArch is based on Linux. I suspect we'll probably be seeing a version of that on the iPhone at some point. That one's going to take a little bit longer. But the simple fact of the matter is, I have put like almost 10 hours into Pokemon Fire Red over the past week. And I am having such a great time. So yeah, I was enthusiastic last week. I'm over the moon this week. This is the best thing that Apple has done for their customers since the M1.
Wow.
You know what's really funny? So Nintendo is like, we've talked about this multiple times, including today, where they try to go after these developers that are making ROMs and putting them out there. But what's funny is the best way that they could get rid of all these other people making ROMs for Nintendo games is to make their own ROMs for Nintendo games. And charge it would cost them next to nothing to do it because they already, they have the IP for these games already. So, like, charge $5 a download or something like that. They'd be making bank off these ROMs, and if they're official ROMs, not nobody, but most people are going to go to those rather than some potentially questionable place to buy or to get ROMs. Well, it's like, come on,
and
Nintendo.
Here's the key. The emulators are not illegal. That's been verified by multiple courts. The ROMs can be. If you download a ROM off of the internet for a game you do not own, that's not legal. That's piracy, right? And I'm not going to make any comments about whether or not that's okay, whether or not you should have a moral objection against that sort of thing. I think that all of these giant companies are frankly asking for it at this point.
Yep.
But that is illegal to just download ROMs off of the internet. But what are most of the people that are playing Delta doing? They're going to go download ROMs off of the internet. Even if, even if you own the cartridge, sometimes it's easier to just go download the ROM off the internet for the game that you already own than it is to, and honestly, at least from my perspective, that's totally above board. Like, you own the game, you have a ROM of the game that you own, here's the cartridge, here's the game. It's fine. Everything's fine. But that's illegal. And if Nintendo, like Landon said, if they really wanted to stop piracy of these games, it's a piece of cake. Nintendo, you just have to take the open source code for the game emulators that everybody has already developed. You need to take that, following the licensing agreements for it, wrap your own emulator up, and then publish that app on the App Store with a ROM downloading service. And via in-app purchases, people can, just pay $5 for all of these old classic games from your library. Holy crap, you would make bank. Because that makes it so much easier for people to actually get the games. Because as it is, you can go download the emulator from the App Store, but if you don't know where to get the actual games from, barrier to entry there is kind of high, and it can be pretty sketchy to go onto the internet and just try and look for this stuff. And even if you do own the physical games, you have to buy an actual piece of hardware in order to rip the ROMs off of your Game Boy cartridges and stuff like that. And even then, it's not difficult, but it requires some software tinkering and that kind of thing just to set it up. So, the barrier to entry via an official Nintendo service would be so much lower, and so many people would use that.
I just realized while you were talking, they've already done this. It's called the NES Classic.
It is.
That is
sure is.
That is just an emulator packaged in a small hardware container. All they have to do is release that software as an app, charge $20 for it, and they will be making so much money off that because so many people would download it immediately because there's 50 games right there, just boom, right on your phone.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
will
so
say
amazing.
I don't think they'd actually be able to charge for the app because the emulator that they're using for the NES Classic and the SNES Classic is open source. They can't actually charge money for that. They're using somebody else's code that was developed by the open source community for game emulation. They took it, they put it on their own hardware, and then sold the box, right? Because the box cost money
Yeah.
and has their IP on it. So they were selling the box and the IP. So I don't think they'd be able to charge money for the download of the app, but they would be able to charge in-app purchases for the games,
Yeah.
right? Like that's where they'd make all the money. Free app, charge for the games, or charge a subscription service in order to have access to the games, or something like that. You know, it's a really, really basic, really easy thing to do. And the fact that Nintendo hasn't done it is just baffling. Like, this is a company who monetizes the snot out of like all of their IP.
Yeah.
So much like merchandising and cross promotion and stuff like that. They made a movie out of Mario like last year, but they won't release an emulator that will let you play Super Mario 3 on your phone. Why not, Nintendo? Give me one good reason. I can't think of a single one. So yes, it's a really interesting situation, but at this point I'm mostly, like I said, I think this is the single best thing Apple has done for their customers since Apple Silicon was first released. And if you want to talk about other things Apple has ever done that were as great for their customers before that, the iPhone, and then before that, the iPod. And then before that, I guess the original Macintosh. You might be able to make an argument for like the G3 iMac being in there. But no, I feel like the iPod kind of wins in that turf. Like, seriously, there's not a lot of things that Apple has ever done that were better just for everybody that uses their products than this right here. And I will die on this hill. Yes, I know I'm a little biased because yes, I play retro games and yes, I like emulation, but I swear that it's so cool. I'm so happy.
You should be happy. This is a good thing. We
And
like this.
and to all you people out there that say, "Well, you could have done it on Android 10 years ago." Yes, you are correct.
That's
But
true. Well,
just be happy for everyone else that now can do it as well. Please.
that's true. just be happy for the millions of iPhone customers who can now do it. Because like that's the thing. I literally, like last week I was talking about how I had dragged out a crappy old Android phone that I had just to install a game emulator on it so that I could play some classic Pokemon and that kind of thing. And I was totally fine doing that. I was totally happy having two devices because they were both small, they were both pocketable. But now I don't have to have two devices. I just have one, and it's awesome.
It is awesome. And as someone that, I mean, as us being the title of our podcast, calling all platforms, we are excited when another platform can do something.
Yes,
We're
it
we're not opposed to being holding one platform should hold one type of idea or something like this. Like, especially like games like console games that are old that like you said don't have encryption and all that. Like, come on, guys.
Yep.
So,
and that's why I would make the argument for game emulation being like the cross-platform event of the year to this point, just because like Apple, the iOS ecosystem was the holdout. Like, you can emulate crap on Macs. Macs are actually really great for emulation. They're fantastic. I love some of the apps available for that. You can do it on Linux. You can do it on Windows. You can do it on Android. You can do it on everything.
If I'm not mistaken, they said that the Series S is the best emulator machine that people have liked. Microsoft has toned that down since they've been making deals with Nintendo. But they literally, like, I've seen that where they're like, guys, the Xbox Series S is the best emulation machine.
If you're looking for a console experience from your emulator, then I think there's definitely a strong argument to be made there. I'm mostly talking about just like being able to download a single piece of software that includes all of the emulators in a really slick user interface and that kind of thing for a home computer, Macs do it better than Windows by a long shot. Mostly because the open source emulation communities that support Mac are the same ones that support Linux, because it's easier to port an emulator from Linux to Mac OS than it is from Linux to Windows. That may not be true with Apple Silicon now, I suppose, but I don't know. There's a lot of OpenEmu is a fantastic project that you download the thing. It includes all of the emulator cores with it. So you just add the games, and it's really, really
That's
slick.
cool. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move on. Landon, do you have any more comments on this or anything?
No, I just want Nintendo to, pull their head out and be smart.
That pigs will fly.
It's never going to happen,
yeah,
but
we're
I can have hope.
Talking about Nintendo. All right. We're going to move on to some Google news here. And it looks like this here is Google consolidating, huh?
So, this is something that when I initially heard it, I was like, oh, this is amazing news. And then I heard the reason why. I'm like, never mind. Well, potentially never mind. I'll say that. So what is happening is Google is restructuring a bunch of internal teams to, work together more or less. And Rick Osterloh has been the main guy over hardware and Pixel devices. He's now going to be over this division that includes Android and Pixel and a bunch of different projects all into one thing. And so that's what made me excited, because one of my biggest complaints about Google and one of my biggest things I love about Apple is all the teams at Apple work together to make their devices work really well and their software work really well together. Google have 5 different messaging apps that prove that none of their people ever work together. And there's just there's so much proof that just shows that the Android team and the Pixel team and the search team and the Maps team and all these people don't talk to each other ever. Because, yes, they all do work fairly well together, but there are definite, pitfalls to the way things are set up at the moment. And when I heard that they were going to make all this into one cohesive group, kind of, that made me happy. But what they said is what Rick Osterloh told. This comes from they had an interview with the people at The Verge, and what he said more or less was they're restructuring these teams to focus on AI integration across various products.
Cool.
Which I understand to an extent. Google has been doing this quote unquote AI stuff for a long time, and they have done a really good job. But that being the main reason they're doing this, just I don't love that that's the reason.
Yeah.
I just I put here on the doc, I said, let's hope this means more than what Google says it means. Because, like I said, I want this to mean that, okay, these teams will talk together, so maybe things will start to work better together as they can. Mm-hmm. Again, not that they don't work well together now, but they could work better. Pixel phones could be better if especially if the camera department worked with the Android department. Just right there, ready to go. You're going to make, the camera is already one of the best in the industry, but you could make it better if these teams talk to each other. So I really hope that is something that just happens on its own. And it's, I don't know. Not being the focus, okay, but I just hope it happens, because it will be just so much better for everyone on Android in general if that does happen. But I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm just please, Google. Ugh.
You know, it's honestly kind of remarkable that a company can have such bad communication with so many different messaging apps.
I know.
Like,
It's ridiculous.
if y'all would just use them, like maybe.
Well, the problem
Maybe.
is this team uses Google Hangouts. This team uses Google Meet. This team uses Allo, which has been dead for a couple years already. And this other team uses something else. So it's like, yes, they're all using these apps, but they're only using them within each team. So they can't cross talk with each other.
There's one group in there that still has like a local server running their circle from
Google Plus.
Yes,
Google
Plus.
That's how they do
Oh.
all of their team
Oh.
communication.
I genuinely hope so, because that would be amazing.
We'll quit. We won't quit. All right. Next thing on here, it says it might be okay to install Android 15 beta now.
It might be, yes. So the Android 15 beta, like they had the developer previews for a minute, now they're onto the betas. It's the first beta, and apparently, Android Beta 1, well, I'll just read the fixes that Android Beta 1.1 gives you. So it fixed, this is coming from their update log. It says, fixed various issues with NFC that interfered with wallet apps and other NFC-dependent system operations. So if you used NFC payments for anything, it didn't work. So that sucks. Or if you live in a big city, say New York, and you use the subway system that you can, have you can use your phone as the way to pay for getting on the subway and whatnot. That didn't work either. So that's fun.
Oh.
It also fixed an issue that sometimes caused the developer options settings screen to crash, which most of the people that are going to be downloading this are going to be going to those developer options. That's fun. The other one is it fixed an issue that prevented some devices from updating properly to Beta 1. So you may have tried to install this and it just didn't work. So, some major issues with the first beta, which is kind of surprising because in the past, once they got to the customer betas, they usually were okay enough to use as a daily driver operating system. They still would have bugs, and they weren't perfect, but they would be okay enough. I would sometimes trust the first beta. I usually would still wait to the second one before I would go with it, but the first one is usually okay. But this one there were some major issues there. So, like I said, they've now rolled out Android 15 Beta 1.1, and if these things are all fixed like they say, then it might be okay to install this version if you are so inclined to do so. I would still wait, let this be out in the public for a week or two, see what people say about this version, and then you can take that risk if you want to. So, yeah, that was a big uh-oh from the Android team right there.
Yeah. Oof. That was bad.
Yeah.
All right. And the next thing on here, a new nomination for the worst tech name of the year.
Yeah. So this, you listener, if you've been here for a while, I generally don't talk rumors too often, but I have to here because if this does happen, this will be going into the running as this will be a nomination for worst tech name of the year. So we've gotten leaks we always get leaks of next Pixel devices because Google is absolutely horrible at not leaking anything. So
yeah,
we already know the Pixel 9, the Pixel 9 Pro, and, these phones, and the Pixel 8a that's going to be coming out soon, the Pixel Fold 2, all these things. We've more or less seen images of these devices. or at least renderings of these devices. But now we have a potential name, a new name for the Pixel Fold device. It's going to be the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Which, if you're have done any sort of elementary math, you would know. Wait, okay, so we got the Pixel Fold. The next one's the Pixel 2, right? No, 9. You go from 1 to 9. That's how math works, I think.
They've been talking to Microsoft too much.
Well, that and Samsung. I mean, Samsung did this with the Note series. I think they went from the Note 5
They went from the 10 to the 20.
Well, they went
Was
from
the
the
big
S
jump.
the S series and Note series were in sync at that point from the 10 to the 20, and they did that to kind of like, hey, they did that in 2020 when so now the S24 is in 2024. That kind of made sense, but they went from like the Note 5 or the Note 4 to the Note 7 and 8, to be
that's
lined
right,
up
because
with the
they
S
just-
series.
Yeah, they just lined it up with the Galaxy series.
Yeah,
Or
but
the-
it wasn't
the S
quite as big
series.
of a jump as this is. And I do kind of understand it, but Pixel 9 Pro Fold,
Yeah, so I see what they're going for here. What they're going for is no. It's the pixel, right? All of
Right.
everything is a pixel, and we
Yeah.
just want to add things to the end to describe which pixel it is, right? So we have the pixel, and it's the Pixel 9 that tells you which generation of the pixel it's from. And the Pixel 9 Pro tells you like, oh, it's got the fancier camera and the fancier processor or something like that. And the Fold tells you like that it folds, which like I hear you, Google, but did you ever stop to think
nope.
that maybe that was maybe that was a few too many suffixes on your product name? Like I think, here's what I think. If they had said Pixel 9 Fold, I would be much less bothered by that, because then it's okay, it's a pixel. 9 is the generation of pixel it's from. Fold is the version of the phone that it is. Right?
Right.
You'd have your
Yep.
Pixel 9, which is just the
And
standard
it's
one.
the foldable. Yep.
And then you'd have the Pixel 9 Pro, which is the uplifted candy bar phone. And then the Pixel 9 Fold, which is the one that folds in half. That would have made sense. It's
Yeah.
the Pro Fold that I'm like, nope, I'm out. I'm
Yeah,
gone.
because like, does this imply that there's going to be a non-Pro folding phone?
No, it implies nothing. It means nothing. It's meaningless. Words have no meaning. Thank you, Google.
Kind of now that we're on this thought process, just curious off the top of your head, what do you think the next Xbox Series X is going to be called? Is it going to be the Xbox Series X2?
No,
Pro?
I think it's
Pro?
I think it's going to be the Xbox 920, and they're going to just start naming them after skateboard tricks. Like, it's,
The
and
900.
then after we're going to have the Xbox Pop Shove It, and
The kickflip.
I was just, with that thought, I was like, man, how horrible would that be? I don't know what they'll go for with that one, but I was just like, The Pop
Like-
Shove It, Xbox Pop Shove It.
there's a lot of things that Sony does wrong in the world, but the naming of the PlayStation is not it.
No,
PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. They got it. They nailed it, guys. They just nailed it right from the beginning. Sequential numbers. What a concept.
Well,
what a concept.
unfortunately, Sony sucks at naming everywhere else.
I mean, that's true. You're not wrong.
I think they just gave up. That's what it was. They're just like,
Yes.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Man.
But yeah, this is a nomination for worst tech name of the year. If it does happen, again, this is a rumor. It may not be the case. I doubt that it won't be the case because it's spring and we already have seen, again, we've seen pictures of these devices. The only
Mhm.
benefit I could see to this Switch, like Caleb said, it's the Pixel 9. I don't hate that. That is fine for me, because the problem with the previous Pixel Fold is it came out about a month probably 3 months, 2 or 3 months before the Pixel 8, and the Pixel Fold was a generation behind on the chip inside the phone. So
Yep.
if this means that they're going to be more in line with that, that's a good thing. I like that. Also, I hate the Pro moniker on this device, but if it means that it matches in theory the high-end specs of the regular Pro phone, just that it folds, not bad. Like, especially for the price that you're going to be paying for this phone, because they're not cheap. The folding devices are never cheap, at least when it comes to Pixel and Samsung. If you're going to Motorola, that's fine, but this has never been the case here. So that I don't like the moniker, but if it means what I'm hoping it means, that's okay. Just change the name, please. Just make the Fold mean high
Pro.
end. Yes.
Like, I feel like that's pretty obvious. Just make the Fold also mean Pro. You don't have to name it. Google.
Yep.
Google.
Yeah, because I heard, I can't remember
Where's
where
the
I
spray
heard
bottle?
this.
I gotta get down from there, you idiots.
Yes, exactly. So I can't remember where I heard this, but I did hear someone come up with the theory that maybe they're going to come out with a regular fold phone that's actually like the clamshell style, the vertical, like the flip phone, and that's just going to be the Fold, and this is the Pro Fold, meaning it's the higher. I don't know. I think that's stupid. If that were the case, just name this one the Pixel 9 Fold and that one the Pixel 9 Flip, because that
You could.
describes it right there. You know,
Actually, I think the obvious solution is to just call it the Pixel 9 Hamburger. This is the hamburger fold style.
and
And
hot
the other
dog.
one is the Pixel 9 hot dog.
Oh.
That's awesome.
You know what? I would absolutely love that if they did that. Because it would be great and everyone would love it. It's never going to happen, but that would be
I know.
fantastic.
It's too descriptive. Like, we
Yeah.
can't have
Yep.
descriptive tech names. A tech name that tells you what the product is and or does? No, never. That's it's literally against the law. Don't know if you knew that. They passed the tech naming statutes a couple of years ago. It's actually against the law for the name of the product to describe what the product is and or does.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a few that got grandfathered in, like the iPhone being an actual like phone cellular communications device. Like that got grandfathered in, because it's older, but yeah, that's
Oh, jeez. All right. Should we move on to some general tech news? All right. This one's called Logitech. Just don't.
So, I really hate this device. So,
oh dear.
Logitech made a new mouse, which that's what they do. They make peripherals for tech for computers mostly. And their mice have been really good. I own a Logitech mouse and I absolutely love it. This one, it's not one that I would buy just if it didn't have this feature, even like just in general, just because it doesn't have the things that I want. Like I've got the MX Master 3, absolutely love it. Great mouse.
So
Caleb has the same one.
It's
They're great.
awesome. I'm an evangelist for this thing.
Me
Best
too.
mouse on the planet.
Absolutely. I completely agree. This one is based on the looks of it. It looks like they're cheaper mice that are, more rounded and have not as many buttons and whatnot, but it has one specific button, and that's the whole, I guess, selling point of this mouse. Let me try and find the name here. Okay, here's the name. This will give it away. It's the Signature AI Edition M750 wireless mouse. So,
Barf. Freaking barf.
Oh no.
so what this mouse does what this mouse does is there's a button right behind the scroll wheel that it's a macro button that in theory you would think could be changed. No, this one is defaulted and cannot be changed, but it goes to launching a large language model in Logitech form. So it's basically ChatGPT. Like, it uses ChatGPT's software and whatnot, but it opens up in a Logitech user interface, which isn't the best in general because Logitech's software has never been great. But that's what this mouse does. So for the 5 people in the world that just can't get to their AI software fast enough, this is the mouse for you.
This is the dumbest thing I think. Okay, no, like you would expect on the product page for something like this, you would find the marketing team doing their level best to spin doctor something like this into a feature that makes sense, right? That seems like a selling point for a $50 mouse. This is what it says. This is the description from Logitech's website, from the product page for this mouse. Launch Logi AI Prompt Builder with the press of a button. Rephrase, summarize, and create custom-made prompt recipes with ChatGPT faster with virtually no disruption to your workflow. What? What is it doing? Like, what is it actually doing? Because from that, it sounds like you push this button and it gives you prompts that you can put into ChatGPT. It's not actually asking ChatGPT anything. It's just like, hey, here's a prompt you could put into ChatGPT. What is...
That is what it sounds like. But in actuality, it does launch, like, over top of any software you're using. You could be anywhere, and it'll launch up this little window, and it will, basically put you into a ChatGPT type situation.
See, and I believe that. I'm just saying whoever wrote this description needs to be fired. That is just word salad nonsense.
Yes, I completely agree. The way that they are marketing this and wording it is not great. Doesn't fully describe what it does.
I think you finally found a whole construction sentence to learn that you just read what a fart is.
But yeah, so if you have to have a quicker way to get to AI stuff, then $50 out of your pocket goes to Logitech and you get this mouse. And
yep.
I'm just going to go ahead and say you can use your existing Logitech mouse and just remap one of the buttons on it. Like,
right?
The center wheel click, just remap that to that. Like, nobody uses the center wheel click for anything, let's be honest. So just remap that. Use that. If you've got an MX series mouse, they have a ton of extra buttons that you can use for this kind of thing. Like, come on, flipping, just use one of those. Don't buy this mouse. Just don't.
Oh, I mean, this could be just the worst device of the year,
Or actually, stop being such a pleb, you AI noob. What you need to do is set it up so that your computer responds to your voiced commands by pulling up a ChatGPT integration and then automatically that's the AI savant way to do it.
That's the other thing they should have done, is just build a microphone into this mouse so you could just speak to it. But what they're hoping for is that you already have a Logitech camera with a microphone built in, I guess. I don't know. But there's no, the pictures don't show that you can talk into this thing. Nope. You just have to type it. So, that would have been smarter. I wouldn't be as opposed to this if you could just push the button, talk into your mouse or something, and, have the conversation that way. But no, you still have to type into it. I mean, you can literally make a shortcut on your desktop that goes straight to ChatGPT, or heck, download ChatGPT onto your desktop. Whoa, that's a thing. This is such a dumb device.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's probably going to be more of this stuff.
Oh, I'm sure there will be. Yeah. This is literally just the Bixby button on a mouse. What
Well, no, you can remap that button.
Well, you couldn't originally.
That's fair. That is fair.
Originally. All right, let's move on here. Next topic here. Meta's Horizon OS is now open to third-party developers.
Yeah, this one actually kind of surprised me. So, listener, if you don't know what Horizon OS is, it is their VR software that comes on the Quest headset. But Meta has said that they are going to let third-party hardware developers use this operating system on their headsets if they want to. And they've already apparently partnered with Asus and Lenovo, are already in development of making some sort of device to put this software on. And my question to you two is Meta actually doing something good for consumers with this? I mean, obviously, they're going to be making, I'm sure they're licensing this, and people have to pay for the right to use it. But is this actually good? In my opinion, I think this is kind of good news because it means more competition in the VR space. Because right now, you can
the hardware, at least,
in terms of hardware, yes,
Mm-hmm.
Because right now you can get other companies like HTC still. Do they? Well, I don't know if they still make a headset.
They're still technically in business.
Yeah, I mean you can get other devices, but most of them have to be tethered to a computer in some way, shape, or form. Whereas the Oculus obviously doesn't have to. It obviously is more limited, but it is more of a mass consumer device rather than what the other companies are offering.
And I mean, to be fair, it's basically just Android,
right?
Heavily skinned Android, but that's fine. You got to start somewhere. What I will say is, I think that while the end result may be that this is good for consumers, the motivation behind it has obviously got nothing to do with making things better for consumers. This is Meta we're talking about.
Right.
It's a money-making attempt. And I suspect that it probably indicates that the Oculus division is sort of hemorrhaging money. Which is not surprising necessarily and not good. But I don't know. I suppose just so long as they don't embed a requirement for you to for these third-party hardware manufacturers to require you to sign in with like a Meta ID in order to use the OS. As long as they don't have that as a requirement baked into their licensing agreement, then yeah, this seems like it's generally good.
See, the problem, I don't have a problem. I like that. I agree with that. The only thing I could see happening is the problem is right now, the main place you get apps for Horizon OS is the Oculus store. And
I mean, that's true.
If you can't get into the Oculus store, that makes opening this up to people to use not quite as beneficial.
I think that, well, if they require, basically, if they're like, hey, here's the OS, and then also, hey, here's the App Store that has all the games and apps in it, and they, obviously it's their App Store. They can require you to sign in with an account and create an account when you try to download stuff. But as long as they're giving the developers of the other headsets the option of having their own App Store, then this might work out fine. And honestly, might end up being the kind of thing that Valve is all like, oh, heck yeah, we'll use your OS. And by the way, here's Steam on Oculus's OS.
Mm-hmm.
And here's all of our games that are, support VR on Steam that can run on this low powered hardware.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. As long as there's that level of openness, then this is fine.
Now, I haven't heard that that's the case, but if they're smart, which this is Meta, we've never accused anyone there of being smart. But if they're smart, they would do that because down the road, if they don't do that, they're going to get the DOJ on top of them because that's just what's going to happen. It's going to be a whole
Right.
Android iOS type situation. Like if
Yep.
they do open it like Android where you can have other app stores. I mean, Samsung has an app store on their phones
Mhm.
and whatnot. Then that, like you said, that would be great. But I haven't seen that it is the case anywhere, but I do hope so because yes, that would be awesome if you could just use the operating system and then get apps from other places, because that does open the door for companies like Valve to do that, or other gaming developers to put their more easily put their games on these type of platforms. I just don't see that being the case, at least not out the door. Maybe down the road when they're, pressured by governments and whatnot.
I think I don't have anything more to add than what you guys have said, really. So, same as that. So, to answer your question. All right. Well, we'll go on to some gaming news here. This is just kind of quick little things I did want to mention. Microsoft, they announced the IGN and ID at Xbox Digital Showcase on April 29th. This is something we always like. We love to see the indie stuff because it seems like that's what's thriving right now. That's making money. We've always kind of said that with new ideas, new stuff coming. So we'll probably take a look at that. We'll report on things that we find that are interesting. And then something that as we've reported on before, Grounded. This is actually now available on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. Grounded is the game that was, if you want to play in your backyard, is a shrunken little, like, hey, honey, I shrunk the kids type area, and you're fighting spiders and bees and trying to survive. It's actually a fun little game, but it's now available on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. This is one of the 4 that were going to be crossplay that was a Microsoft only game or Xbox only game. Apparently this is blowing up pretty quick with this one on there. So I know it's big on PlayStation. I haven't seen Nintendo Switch numbers, but I'm going to assume
It's probably even bigger on Switch because more people have Switches, and also it just feels like that's a really good demographic match for the average Switch user.
right. So if you've been waiting to get this is good. And reason why I did bring it up, because we're all about the crossplay. We're talking about emulator crossplay, all this stuff. We love that Grounded is a game like Grounded can be on other platforms, which it should, to keep the atmosphere of this game, the communities together, alive, and make even more on this. So I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
So if you want to get it, you can. Good old Grounded. Get in there and build your own little grass base and try and take on bees and spiders and ants and all sorts of fun stuff. It does actually have a story in it. It's a very interesting story. You basically figure out why you are very small, what's going on.
I mean,
It's
it
a
sounds
good
like
question.
the premise of, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids,
It kind of does.
So
which is
It's
great
fun.
because that's a great movie.
I think this is one that if we get around to it, I think we should stream this one and get Landon. We should get you in on this on your phone. This one would be fun for you to stream and just dink around in with us if we can.
My only question is, can I ride around on an ant?
So when I was playing it, I don't remember if you ride on an ant. I never got that far to say yes or no on that. I know you fight them and then take over stuff, but I don't remember exactly. I know you go steal some larva eggs, so maybe?
Is
But I
there
can't
also
be-
the fear of being sucked up into a lawnmower?
There's many different things that can happen. I don't want to spoil it for you if you decide you want to play.
I'm just going off of what I've seen in the movie. So
Yeah, I know. I figured that's what you were. This dust bunny sweep me off my feet. But yeah. So if that's one we ought to, one day if we do get time, we should stream that one and put it up. That would be kind of fun to mess with.
Interesting side note. you are not the first person to have asked this question, Landon.
Did you look it up? No
You
way.
know, I'm really
And it-
glad that I'm not the first person to ask this question.
It turns out that you can have pets in Grounded that range from aphids to gnats and weevils, but not the larger insects, meaning that you can have a whole bunch of little critters following you around, but nothing large enough that you would be able to climb onto it. So, no ants or spiders.
I'm sure that's a requested thing that might show
No,
up.
like literally the second hit on Google is a Reddit post for the game to the developers saying, maybe you guys should come up with a way to tame and ride an ant species. So, yeah. Oh, in fact, no, there's like a whole list of them. Can you ride bugs? Why can't we ride ants? Ability to ride ants. Yeah, no. Lots of people have wondered this.
They also ride a bee at one point in the movie, so you know.
Was it a bee?
There's one point where they go into a flower, get covered in pollen, and then
That's
get
right.
yeah.
That's yeah. Oh yeah, man.
Wow, you just brought back some
I
memories.
was gonna say I forgot so much about that.
I
movie.
haven't watched this movie in years, and all of this
Did
is
you know-
just coming back to my
Did you
brain.
know the
and I love it.
original name for that movie was Grounded?
Whoa.
That was the original name of the movie, and then Disney changed it, and so part of it was that's why they were like, "Can we have Grounded? Is that copyright? That would be awesome." So, but yeah, so that's pretty much all the news there. There might be more kind of gaming news that's coming. That's I think a lot of people are trying to get their showcases together for June. The big. I mean, we're going to call it E3 season, but E3 doesn't exist, I guess, anymore. But we'll
Yeah.
just keep calling it that because that just makes sense or something. But I'm sure that, I mean, if most things will happen are just little leaks or little ID independent showcases might be popping up here and there that's happening. So, but I do suspect this year we're going to have, I think we're going to have a lot this year for game news. Because apparently we're going to have some hardware for both PlayStation and Xbox and supposedly the Switch, unless they did delay it. I heard they were thinking of delaying it to March, the new Switch or whatever the new next Nintendo thing. But even then, we're supposed to have so many games and so many things that's happening this year. So that'll be coming on there. So I think that's everything. The end of the episode, unless Landon has one more thing.
No.
Awesome. Well, maybe next time. Dear listener, we appreciate you listening. If you want to get a hold of us, you can on our social media platforms. You can also get a hold of us at callingallplatforms.com. All right, dear listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.